Hey y'all, it's Laura, and we are going to work on a special project today. Now, this is the Storyteller Tag Journal. So it's a little mini album of sorts. It comes with a binder ring, and I will warn you, all of these bits and pieces that is shown on the cover do not come with this kit. I'm going to show you everything that comes with the kit. There's 14 pieces involved, and then we're going to go ahead and assemble it. But I wanted to be sure to point out, not everything is included in the kit. Some of it's just part of the Storyteller collection. Just wanted to give you the heads up. So here's what comes in the kit. We've got a few pieces. They all seem to have this ring at the top so you can group them together like a mini album. So we've got this little photo display of frames. We've got a glitter shaker light bulb with some butterflies inside. We've got story with, again, the little hole here to add it in. We've got a ticket. We've got a journaling spot. We have an open and shut little like journaling thing for some extra added stories with this little typewriter, another larger tag in green, a set of butterflies, again with the little hole at the top, white on the back. We have this little piece, and it has a nice little floral border, has an area for some journaling. The back is just white. We have a library envelope with one of those little insert cards like they used to have in library books. That also has a hole in it, so you can add some things onto there. We have a chipboard tag shape with a really nice purple outside and then just chipboard on the back. And then a chipboard tag with some orange watercolory goodness on it. So let's go ahead and dive in. It also comes with a binder ring. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and create this tag journal. I will pull in some stickers and things from the Storyteller collection just to finish it off, but I wanted to show you guys rather what was actually in the kit so that you don't buy this thinking you can make the exact same thing as what's on the cover, because you will need a little bit more from the Storyteller collection to do that. Let's dive in.
So just a heads up, this is a longer video, so if you'd like to pause and go get a cup of coffee or tea and settle in or scrap along with me, that's totally fine, and I would invite you to do so. So the photos I'm going to be scrapping in this album are of my dogs primarily, and we have two of them. There is Gracie, who is a fluffy little peekapoo, Pekingese and poodle mix, and then there is Emma, who we rescued from the shelter, and she's just a mix of different breeds. I have no idea what dog she would be called, but we call her Emma, and she's a little chunk. So we absolutely adore our dogs. I am a huge fan of animals and have grown up with pets my whole life. So I have the idea to go ahead and scrap them in this little mini album just because it makes it very accessible for my kids to look at photos of the dogs, and especially for my twins, having smaller mini albums for very specific topics sometimes helps them with speaking and with learning new words, and we have found that to be very, very helpful. It's also nice to kind of explain vacations and different things. Like I have a mini album devoted to people who have passed away and have photos in there of family members the kids have never met. And sometimes that's a little bit easier and more accessible for them when it's in a smaller size. So for this first piece, I have these 3 frames, and I decided to print off some really tiny photos of the dogs, and you can do this on the Canon Selfie app, and I believe you might be able to do it in Project Life app as well on your phone. I'm not really sure, but you can print like 8 tiny photos onto one 4x6 size piece of paper and then use them, and I think they're roughly 1.5 by 1.5 by 1.5, something like that. And they worked perfectly for these little frames. And I was excited to get to use all of these little interactive bits and pieces that come with this tag journal and creating a mini album with it. Now, there's a lot of different bindings you can use for mini albums, and some are very complicated. This is honestly the simplest way to create a mini album, is to use these binder rings. And they come in a variety of sizes, and and I have several in my stash and have used them in the past for mini albums, and just find them much easier to use, especially with kids, because kids tend to be a bit rough handling little mini books. And so by having the binder ring, it's easy to just flip through the next page. You don't have to worry about them turning the page too hard or pulling on it. They seem to be pretty sturdy. Now, I'm going to be using a variety of both chipboard and stickers on these little pieces here, just to dress them up, finish them off. And I wanted to be very clear with you guys up front that these don't come with the actual tag journal by itself, because I want you to be prepared that you will have to purchase other things to decorate or use your stash to decorate them. And I just think that that's fair to let you know what to expect, and helps in giving a little bit of a review of this little tag journal. Personally, I do think that it's not great that there were items from the collection that were not included in the tag journal itself advertised on the front. I'll be honest, that kind of irritated me personally. I just think that's kind of sketchy. Just a personal opinion. And I was not thrilled about that. But since I already had other bits and pieces from Storyteller, I was able to go ahead and create my own. So I am using a combination of little tiny embellishments. So these frames had little leaves on them, so I've added some little florals next to the leaves and then some tiny words next to those, and I do a bit of scattering and splattering on each of the pieces as well. I think I come back to that first piece with some Nuvo later on, but most of the rest of them I added a little bit of Nuvo, but not the color shine, because ink splatter is quite often remains tacky and a little bit sticky. And if you are working on a project that's outside of a pocket, outside of a page protector, that stickiness will make the pieces stick together, and you'll have one of those magnetic album situations where things are stuck that should not be stuck, and makes it very difficult to flip through the album without ripping anything or without staining other bits and pieces. Now, I have added in some photos that have pictures of my kids with the dogs as well. I think that's a nice way to introduce little stories into this album. So the first piece has Gracie at the top, Emma at the bottom. This one has my son Joseph, who is reading to me for homeschool, and Gracie is perched up in his chair with him, just to keep him company while he reads. And I thought that was pretty cute. You'll also see pictures of my one of my twins, Olivia, who adores the dogs. And so I have several pictures of her with the dogs, playing with them, petting them, loving on them, and just trying to add bits and pieces that make it interesting, but also keeping it very simple. So this was a washi sticker that was on the sticker book. I added it onto some white cardstock so that it wasn't see-through. You wouldn't see the little design in the background, and then added it on the bottom of this chipboard piece, because if I left it see-through, you would be able to see some of the design from the florals and the switch from black to white underneath, and it would be kind of hard to read the word. So by backing it with white cardstock, fussy cutting it back out, it just makes it more opaque so you can't see directly through it. On this large chipboard piece, I had this cut apart from the Storyteller papers, and I'm going to use this as kind of a base to put these 3 photos on. I really felt like leaving it plain on the background was a bit boring. And because my daughter is wearing black in these photos, I think this piece worked really nicely to tie in the black of her shirt with the background. Now, I did leave in more of the assembly than I normally do. And the reason for that is because when you're assembling a mini album, it's a very different process from just scrapbooking. Things have to be very secure, because they're going to be handled directly. There's not going to be any kind of a page protector protecting them, and so you have to think about them a little bit differently. And so I do use a lot of double-sided tape. I find that works great long-term. Glue is your friend, especially on really small detail items, like the small gold hearts that I have on the left side in that little bitty container. I will use glue to assemble those, or to add those onto the tag journal. Now, these 3 photos are of my daughter Olivia, and she is brushing out Emma. Now, Emma is normally pretty skittish. She hides a lot, And so this happened to be one of those days where Emma must have been feeling a bit lazy. And she decided to go ahead and allow Olivia to brush her out. And after she finished brushing her out, then she reached down and gave her a big ol' hug and tried to get kisses from her. But Emma's not much of a giving kisses dog. That's just not her thing. So I've just added a couple of bits and pieces here. I've got one ephemera piece on the right side here as my title, a couple of tabs in the top left corner, and some Nuvo. And that was it. I'm trying to keep these very simple, easy, quick. I didn't want this video to go on for 45 minutes, even sped up, because it did take me about 2 hours or so to actually assemble this. And so I wanted to edit it down to something that's watchable and that you can kind of pick up some tips and tricks for how you can set up a mini album like this, even if you just used tags, even if you just cut yourself a whole bunch of long skinny tags. This gave you some ideas for how to set up those pages to make them all look a little bit different from each other. Include some journaling, include some stickers, some minor embellishing, but get it done pretty quickly. Finishing an entire mini album in 2 hours is actually not too bad. And for me, I think this was kind of fun to do something that's a little bit different than a 12 by 12 or 9 by 12 layout. It just causes you to think differently about your scrapping process. Now this photo is of me and Gracie, and she is my little cuddle bug. She loves, loves, loves to jump in my lap. If I sit on the couch, she's in my lap immediately, and she loves to give kisses. So she and Emma are opposites on that front, and if you get too close to her, you will get slobbered. So she she absolutely adores giving kisses, and I happen to be her favorite person most of the time. So she's usually with me, my tiny shadow, everywhere. And this was just a really cute selfie. I was trying to take a picture with her, and of course she just slobbered all over me, and it cracked me up. So had to include that photo, just one of my personal favorites. Now these are some little stars that were, I think they were mixed in with the ephemera pack, but I'm not sure about that. They might have come from something else. I'm not really sure where those came from, actually. I do sometimes grab things. Oh, they're not stars, they're flowers. They're tiny little flowers that were fussy cut, I believe, from one of the pattern papers. That's right. Sorry about that. It's been a while since I did this tag journal, actually. I just haven't had time to sit down and voice over it till now. So this one is a large green tag. I have a photo of my little Gracie on her bed, but she has pulled the pillow out of her dog bed, propped it up onto just one little section of the edge, and has perched herself up on top of the pillow. She is such a little princess. I quite often find her sleeping on top of a pillow, on top of the chair, and just perched like a little princess dog. She needs all the comforts in the world, and she just cracks me up. Adding some of these tiny little hearts all around for some scattering. Now, I always finish off a page with scattering and splattering. This is in a minor way on these tags, so I'm just going with some tiny little hearts, tiny little stars, tiny little florals, and then coming in with a bit of Nuvo to drop, drop, drop everywhere, because once that Nuvo is dry, it's not an issue. It doesn't squish, it doesn't stay tacky, and works for a controlled splattering effect. Now there was a tiny tag in here. I decided to pop this photo of my son holding Gracie, and she's looking at him being absolutely adorable. And she does this thing where if she's sitting in your lap and you're not petting her, she looks up at you with the biggest puppy dog eyes and just begs to be petted. It's absolutely adorable. You cannot help but pet her, and that just reinforces that it works. So she's really, really cute, and she really knows it. So adding just a few little tiny embellishments, a little you and me at the bottom, and a couple of small hearts, and I think some Nuvo, and then this one will be done. Really quick and easy. I didn't do the backs of these tags, mostly because I didn't have that many photos to use, and also because the backs were not very pretty, and so I would have had to do a lot of papering to the backs to make them usable, and I just didn't feel like it. I just thought this would be a really fun, easy, quick project to do, and it was. I really enjoyed it. Now this last photo absolutely cracks me up. One of my kids had put a little tutu on Emma, And Emma had gone to sleep, didn't care. She rarely cares if they mess with her. And she had gone to sleep. They'd put this little tutu on her waist. And Gracie is looking at me completely confused. Like she does not understand what Emma is wearing and why. And it's just a really funny photo, so I had to include it. And I've left plenty of room at the bottom for some journaling. Now, keeping in mind, though, that this isn't a big story. I just told it to you in about 10 seconds. So I don't have that much journaling to add to it, so I do want to kind of fill in some of that space with decorative stuff because that's the fun part. So I'll add a little message with that washi here at the top, again backing it with some white cardstock so it is more opaque and doesn't show the photo through the washi. And then a few stickers. I think I added a little scrap of paper as well in between the journaling and the photo. And just trying to keep it pretty simple, pretty quick and easy. I think I had an extra heart there, so I decided to go and pop it onto the previous tag. And I really like the sticker sheets. The Storyteller collection is pretty interesting. The ephemera packs are full of very large pieces, and the sticker sheets and the chipboard have the smaller ones. So depending on the type of scrapping that you do, it's pretty easy to go ahead and pick what's going to work for you better. If you prefer that larger size, then you can go for the ephemera packs. If you prefer the smaller embellishments, which I personally prefer, then the sticker sheets and the chipboard are the way to go. And I was glad they had that variety in this collection, and you didn't have to choose one and get half of what you want, if that makes sense. So half of the ephemera pack was little pieces, but the other half was huge. And in this case, that just wasn't the situation. You can get the much smaller pieces on the chipboard and the sticker sheets. And there was 3. So there was chipboard, a 6x12 sticker sheet, and a sticker book. So there was lots of options for you. You didn't have to buy the ephemera packs if you don't like the larger pieces. I use a variety, but I do prefer the smaller ones. So you see, I will stick to those for these smaller mini albums. Now, I did love this butterfly sticker, and I may have been hoarding it just a little bit because it is gorgeous. And so I did trim off the white border. I do this quite frequently with embellishments because I'm not a fan of that white border. I think it makes it difficult to cluster multiple pieces together when it has a thick border, and especially if I want it to kind of blend in with the cluster that I'm creating. Losing that white border makes that a lot easier. I have heard from a few friends that they have that struggle too, that they find that white border makes the sticker stand out too much and draw attention away from the photo. And I never want that to happen because the photo is the point for me. The photo, then the story, then the pretty things. But that's the order I want you to enjoy them in. And so that page is done. I will do the journaling for that one offline. Just because it was a lot of involved journaling. Please stay tuned to the very end because I will have a full flip through of the finished tag album for you so that you can see exactly how it turned out, and it'll be a little bit up closer so you can see those details. Now on this library card envelope, I decided to go ahead and add a little piece of this kind of mixed media collage-y looking paper, and I'm going to create a little bit of a design on the front of the pocket and decorate that. And then we'll have that library card just tuck inside, so I don't need to decorate the inside of the pocket, just that front cover, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going ahead and cutting the angle that is on the front of that pocket there, just measuring very quickly without a ruler, just going for it because that's just how I do things. Lots of tape, again, because I want to make sure it stays in place, and then a quick outline to make sure that it doesn't get lost in that craft background. Personally, I don't use a lot of craft paper. For that reason is that a lot of your colors get a bit muddy when you use a craft background. But in this case, I think it works because that little insert covers up most of that craft, and I think that that works out pretty well. So on this pocket, I'm going to keep it fairly easy. I have this Discover sticker, which stands out nicely. I think it's a gold foil, and so that works quite well. And then I think I brought in another small sticker underneath, and it was pretty much done after that. Now these pieces off to the left side will get included into the final album, but I didn't do a whole lot to them. I just kind of layered them in with the pieces that had photos. And I think that's kind of nice to have those little decorative add-ons to the album. So it's not just photos and story, it's also little pretty things that you can turn. And I was particularly excited about those butterflies because they are gorgeous. I think I ended up adding some Nuvo to their heads just to make them a little bit more interesting, but I absolutely adore the bits and pieces that were included in this tag journal overall. I just wish that they had included a little bit more to embellish them with, and so you didn't have to necessarily purchase something additional in order to finish off the album. You could do it as one quick project. But that's it for this one, guys. Let's check out the finished project.
So here is the finished mini album or tag journal, and I have just gone ahead and put it together in what seemed like a logical order. So I've got the title, which is just a story, and then I added this piece, which was from the cut apart papers, and then my sweet little girls in the photo frames with a little heart in the center, and just back that with white cardstock so it looked nice and neat on the back. Then I have this little tag with my son Joseph snuggling up with Gracie, which is our little peekapoo. And then this one is the large tag, and I have this really sweet photo of me and Gracie all snuggled up, a little bit of journaling, a little bit of florals, and this one came together really quick. I wanted to keep a couple of them simple. And then this one is of Gracie all snuggled up in her little bed, or at least part of her bed, on top of this ticket. And then this one is of Joseph with Gracie. I don't have as many photos, it seems, of Emma, just because she tends to hide. But Gracie loves being out with us, and I thought this was cute of her sitting with my son while he's reading. And then I just kind of tucked this little typewriter in here. I may add more journaling in here, I haven't decided yet. Went ahead and added some Nuvo drops to the heads of the butterflies, just to add a little bit of interest to those. And then we have the little library card, which I decorated on camera, and then have added, added some journaling to, this is really tight, added some journaling to in the center about Emma getting dressed up. One of my kids had done that. So just this cute little tag album I thought would be really sweet for these photos. I went ahead and put a little happy on the light bulb and a little bit of journaling about this last piece here that has 3 photos of Emma with my daughter Olivia. So I think this is a fun little mini album. I wanted to document our sweet dogs, just kind of where they are now, because, you know, in time we may not have them in the future. You know, dogs get older, and it'd be nice to have these sweet little memories kind of all together and easy to access, easy for the kids to look through. So I got this from acherryontop.com. If you'd like to check it out, be sure to look online. I hope this was helpful, a little bit of a review as well as a process video. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, bye.